That, my friends, is called trauma. It can come in many forms and affect anyone at any age. Trauma can change the way we see ourselves, how we see the world around us, and sometimes how we connect with people. But tonight, Alia Diab is here to guide us through that journey and show us how we can face those moments with strength. So let's give her a warm welcome.
Helen Keller once said, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it." What did she mean by that? What's the wisdom behind this quote? I mean, people like Helen Keller don't just go around throwing random words, do they? Well, I want you all to take a second and think about all of the possible meanings this quote could have. It has many. But settle your minds on one. We'll get back to it at the very end. Now, to understand what Helen Keller means, we need to know the definition of trauma. The NIH, National Institute of Health, defines trauma as a traumatic, scary, a sometimes dangerous or shocking experience that can affect someone emotionally or physically. This experience was actually had a test that was run that presented that almost 70.4% of respondents went through at least one traumatic event in their lifetime, and 30.5% of respondents went through 4 or more. From this definition, I want you all to think with me for a second of an event that you went through that shook you, changed your perception on life, and affected you both in your mind and in your heart. If it's not you, then maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend, or a coworker perhaps. Just keep it in your mind. Well, when someone goes through a traumatic event, they tend to have two choices that they can make, two paths that they can choose to venture on. Either it can be a positive path, a healthy path that can help them grow and understand their emotions better and can even help them heal. Or they can decide to venture on a negative path, a path which can lead them down a rabbit hole of situations, of a rabbit hole of terrible decisions that they can make. But let me explain. When I say terrible or negative path, it doesn't necessarily have to be negative. It can be something positive that hasn't been done in moderation. For example, for all my sports people out there, exercise is healthy, but over-exercise isn't healthy. Eating is healthy, but binge eating isn't healthy. And watching and taking a break is also healthy, but binge watching isn't healthy, which means that anything positive can still become negative if it hasn't been done to the right degree. Now, back to your flashback. I want you to think of the path that you chose, the path the person chose when they went through this event. Did they choose the positive path, or did they choose the negative path? Well, I want to talk about the people that chose to take the healthy path. These people go through something called a trauma-informed reset. Now, a trauma-informed reset is when someone consciously decides to rebuild their thoughts and emotions and to have an understanding of how the event changed them with an appreciation of the lessons they learned and an understanding of what they want to change. Focus on the word consciously. These people do it out of want, not out of force, but out of the feeling where they need to change in hopes of becoming better people. You might be asking, what do these people do? People who go through a trauma-informed reset. What is it that they do? What is it that they go through? Well, I'm going to explain this through my own personal story. A story that made me have to go through a trauma-informed reset and all the lessons I learned across the way. But before that, I know I'm asking for a lot, but back to your flashback. What do you think someone decided to do when they had a trauma-informed reset? What did they decide to change? Did you see a difference in how they acted? Maybe it was their mindset, how they treated themselves, or how they treated people. Keep that in your head. Now, about 2 years ago, I went through an obsessive episode where I had blocked myself in my own mind. I was in this phase of curiosity, and I become almost like the curious cat. But just like the cat, curiosity took me down the same road that it took. And I had to find a way to get out, and fast. Now, the first step was realizing my situation. I had realized that I wasn't just affecting my mental health or my emotional health. I was affecting my friends, my family. They were sad to see me sad, and they didn't know what to do, because everything that helped only saved me a temporary relief. And I'd realized it in my own academics. Sometimes I couldn't focus as much. I would be lost. I noticed myself, my focus going downwards. I couldn't hear the teachers because all I could think of was my fear for my future. The second step was changing how I dwell on the past and no longer letting fear of the future control me. Now, this is a phrase that I learned actually from Kung Fu Panda. Master Ubui once said, "The past is history. The future is a mystery. But today is a gift." That's why it's called the present. And I lived by that principle. I lived with the idea that my past mistakes cannot be changed, but I can learn from them. And my future is not what controls me, but it is my actions in the present that control the future. And I took it into consideration, not with the idea that the future will affect me, but rather that everything I do will affect the future. The second step was changing my mindset towards the world. I was trying to fear everything. I thought that everything in the world was out to get me. I was scared. I thought there was nothing good left in the world to be hopeful for, which was the first mistake. And that's when I decided to stop and reset my mind on how it viewed the world. Because just as there is sadness in the world, there's also happiness. And just as there's evil in the world, there's also good. And while there might be pain, there will also be healing, which means that the world isn't only full of bad things, but rather it has good things as well. And the third step was changing my mindset towards myself, not just the world. I was beating myself up for thinking, how could I let myself go that far? Why would I even bring myself in this situation, on this terrible path where I had to struggle every single day with my own fears and my own worries? Why did I have to constantly battle my mind? Well, I stopped saying that. Instead, I would say, I did make a mistake. I did make mistakes that led me down this path, but I will learn from them, because every mistake is valuable to me. And I had to find my way out on my own, and I would find a way out. And I stopped beating myself up. All these little lessons taught me the greatest lesson of all, which was that avoiding making a mistake was impossible. Avoiding failure is impossible, because in the end, falling down is inevitable, whether it's physically and literally, or whether it's metaphorically. We have to fall down at some point of time. Because in the end, resilience isn't the fact that we don't feel pain. Resilience is the fact that we can get up after every hit we take and learn from this pain how to avoid it in the future. Now, remember the quote I told you? Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it. What do you think it means? Well, I'll tell you. Helen Keller meant that while we will suffer in the world, we will also feel ease. And while we will feel pain, we will also feel healing. it's not just sadness in the world, and it isn't just failure that we will witness, but we will also always witness success, and we will always get back up after this failure, because that's just how the world works. Even in comic books and movies, there are always villains. But at the end of the day, there's always a hero that will come and defeat the villain and bring light back into our world. Thank you.